Well, hey guys, so tretinoin cream versus tretinoin gel. How do they compare? Which one is better? Does it even really matter? We're going to get into it in today's video. Tretinoin is a topical medication that is used to treat acne, but it's also used to treat a wide array of other skin conditions and skin concerns like melasma, hyperpigmentation, and it's frequently sought out after for improving the signs of photo damage like sunspots and wrinkles. But when you put tretinoin on the skin, you're not just putting tretinoin by itself on there. The tretinoin has to be in something, and that something is referred to as the vehicle. It's a bunch of other ingredients that make up either a cream or a gel, which are the vehicles we're going to be focusing on in today's video. There are a lot of different types of vehicles for delivering topical medications. Topical medications are a mainstay in dermatology for treating tons of different skin diseases, skin issues, and skin symptoms. Number one, the ability to put the medication exactly where it needs to go. That is advantageous. And number two, it reduces the risk of systemic side effects. You see, in contrast to taking a pill by mouth, when you're putting the medication on your skin, it's primarily going to stay in the skin. So that substantially lowers any potential for side effects to other organ systems. So where possible, we like to use topicals. Here's the thing, topical medications, like any medication, is only as good as it is being used, meaning you can't just go fill your tretinoin prescription and put it in your medicine cabinet. You actually have to use it in order for it to work. And that may sound silly to point out, but a major issue with a lot of topical medications is that they can be super irritating. And that's especially true for tretinoin, especially in the first few weeks of starting it. People get a lot of dryness, they get a lot of peeling. They don't like that, big surprise, and a lot of people just end up not using the medication. And when they don't use the medication, that leads to treatment failure, meaning their acne doesn't get better, their melasma doesn't get better, it just doesn't work out. And when a medication causes a lot of irritation and keeps the patient from using it, not only does that lead to treatment outcome failure, but it also leaves the patient very dissatisfied, not to mention cost. Not only that, but irritation from a topical medication can end up leading to something called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Basically can leave behind a dark mark that will take some time to fade. This is especially true in people who have deeper skin tones. So the best formula of a topical medication is one that is not only effective, but is also tolerated. You could have the best form of tretinoin in the world, but if it's too irritating and nobody can stand it, no one's going to use it. It's not going to work. So for pharmaceutical companies developing topical formulations, they have to factor in how is this going to improve adherence, improve outcomes, improve satisfaction, reduce irritation, and ultimately that's not only going to improve treatment outcomes but also reduce cost. When it comes to formulating topicals, there are a few challenges that have to be considered. One of the challenges with formulations is that in some cases, as the medication molecule passes through the epidermis, it can be changed either as a result of the pH in the skin or other factors, maybe even local enzymes can modify it so that by the time it actually reaches the destination in the skin, it's no longer active. Remember, your skin is a barrier, so manufacturers of topical medications, they have to create a vehicle that is going to allow for effective penetration of that active ingredient. And they make vehicles that have ingredients with this purpose in mind. For example, a formula that uses a volatile component like an alcohol can actually increase the concentration of that medication on the skin surface once it is applied topically. You see, as those volatile components are evaporating, more drug is left behind. Because of this, it allows for use of a topical medication at a lower percentage. If more is going to be left on the skin, well then you don't need as much. And this is advantageous because when you don't need as much, it's likely going to be less irritating in some cases. Vehicles are going to include ingredients that to a certain extent are intended to disrupt the skin barrier to allow for that active drug to actually get in to go where it needs to go. Detergents, emulsifiers, and solubilizers are components of a vehicle that can disrupt the skin barrier and allow for effective penetration of the drug so that it gets to where it needs to go in the skin. Think of the vehicle as the delivery system for the drug. Not only does the vehicle have to accommodate said drug, but it also has to be appropriate for the body site being treated. Some formulations are meant for the face, and they're less effective, say, on the skin of the back. Some formulas are more appropriate for hair-bearing areas like the scalp. The language that you use around the topical formulations of skincare products is a little bit different in comparison to medications. Sure, there's some overlap, but we don't talk about medications in the terms of like serum or toner. The FDA actually only recognizes certain vehicles: solution, suspension, paste, lotion, cream, ointment, gel, or this category other, which includes aerosols, powders, and patches. Now y'all ask, what's the difference between tretinoin cream versus tretinoin gel? But I want to point out to you guys that these aren't the only vehicles. You have a tretinoin lotion, and beyond cream versus gel, you also have a variety of newer delivery systems that all are developed with the aim of minimizing irritation to the patient with the goal of improving adherence. And we're not going to get into all of those, but they include things like Retin-A Micro and Altreno, which I do have a video on, by the way. Altreno is the lotion. Getting back to the cream versus the gel, the tretinoin cream comes in 3 percentages: 0.1%, 0.05%, and 0.025%. This is by weight. It's a hydrophilic cream. That's what I use. Those of you who watch my vlogs, you've seen me apply it before, so you have a good sense probably at this point from watching those videos what it actually looks like. But the cream has stearic acid, it has isopropyl myristate, polyoxyl 40 stearate, stearyl alcohol, xanthan gum, butylated hydroxytoluene, which is a preservative, and purified water. Tretinoin gel, on the other hand, much lower percentages: 0.025% or 0.01%. Tretinoin gel, though, if you look at the inactive ingredients, it has butylated hydroxytoluene, a preservative, hydroxypropyl cellulose, and a low molecular weight alcohol. Remember what I said earlier in this video, that volatile components, one advantage of them is that it allows for you to get away with less drug, and that can end up with a formula that is less irritating. So when it comes to choosing between cream versus gel, a lot of it has to do with you as an individual. And here's where, when it comes to advocating for yourself, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you have been prescribed either of these and you find that you don't like the way it feels, you don't like the way that it looks, or you're getting too irritated, pick up the phone and call the prescriber. Say, hey, I know I'm supposed to get some irritation with this, but I don't like X, Y, and Z about it. There's a chance that it might be related to the vehicle, and swapping out the vehicle may make all of the difference for you and make it a lot better for you. And if it's better for you, then you're more likely to use it, it's more likely to work, you're more likely to be satisfied, and you're less likely to waste a bunch of money. I can't predict for any one person whether or not the cream is going to be right for you or the gel, but I will say this. In my experience, tretinoin cream tends to go over much better for people who have dry skin, whereas a lot of people who have super oily skin tend to prefer the gel. The gel is also good for minimizing shine on the skin surface. It has a very fast absorbing, quick dry feel to it. It doesn't leave the skin greasy whatsoever. Some people find that the gel is just too dry. Now, it's a common misconception to assume that one is going to be better or more effective than the other. That's not true. These are merely different tools in the toolkit, and the right tool boils down to you as a patient overall and what your individual needs are. I've said this in other videos before, but higher percentage doesn't necessarily mean more effective. The end result with all of these percentages can be exactly the same, but getting to that end result is going to be influenced by how you tolerate the given prescription, the given vehicle overall. If you find that the gel is too drying, causes too much irritation, it might not be right for you. It might not be good enough for you to stick with it. You may benefit from the moisturizing effects of the cream. Alternatively, if you don't like the oily feel of the cream, switching over to the gel may be preferable to you. A lot of men like the gel as opposed to the cream. Not all, but a lot do. Men tend to have much oilier skin in comparison to women. They have larger oil glands, so men do tend to prefer the gel. Now, A notable difference between the cream and the gel is, first of all, the gel is flammable. So be careful around an open flame. If you take your tretinoin gel camping, you're out by the campfire, be careful. The other thing that is unique to the gel, which I personally believe is a bit of an advantage, is that you can get pilling with it, especially if you use too much. So I say advantage because it prevents the patient from using too much. And it's a misconception that using more of tretinoin, like putting a lot more on, is going to get you better results or faster results. It doesn't. It just wastes it and substantially increases the risk of irritation. The gel almost kind of prevents you from using too much because it will just start peeling. That's kind of annoying to deal with. So if you are using the gel and you are getting a lot of pilling, make sure that you're not using too much. How much should you use? The amount you use is roughly the same between the cream and the gel. And both, if you read the package insert, they both say the same thing. Start with roughly a ½ inch amount onto your fingertip and dispense it onto your face. The recommended way to apply that ½ inch is to put a dot in the middle of the forehead, a dot on each cheek, and a dot on your chin. And then you're going to rub it into the entire face, sparing around the mouth, especially the corners of the mouth, and sparing the eyelids. Everyone's face is different, and that ½ inch, we often refer to it as a pea-sized amount. Some people refer to it as a pearl-sized amount because peas actually vary quite a bit in size if you've ever measured them. Anyway, roughly a ½ inch, but as you get comfortable using either the cream or the gel, you'll have a good sense of what it takes to cover your face, sparing the eyes and sparing the corners of the mouth. Again, I want to emphasize, more is not more. It just wastes it and increases the risk of irritation. And with the gel, if you use too much, it'll start pilling right away. Another issue some people run into with the gel is that if they put moisturizer on over the gel, which can help reduce risk of dryness and irritation. I've said that in a lot of videos. But putting moisturizer on over the gel, you can get some of that pilling with your moisturizer. So if you're using the gel, it can be a good idea to just give yourself 30 minutes of wait time after applying your tretinoin gel before you put your moisturizer on. And it should be okay. All right, guys, that's the difference between tretinoin gel and tretinoin cream. Differences in ingredients, and at the end of the day, it all boils down to which formula you tolerate. Now, I often get a lot of people very concerned about the individual ingredients in these medications. Websites online where they rank ingredients as comedogenic, and so a lot of people are under the misconception that the isopropyl myrostate is going to be pore clogging, the BHT is somehow harmful, and I can't break down that misinformation enough. It's unfortunate that it persists out there, but these pore clogging ingredient lists, they are not an accurate representation of product formulation, pharmacology at all. They're based off of these very antiquated, irrelevant testing methods that don't reflect real-world use. Now, that's not to say that you can't be irritated by any of these ingredients, but just don't go in fearing an individual ingredient. There's not any research to support that any of these ingredients are harmful to human skin. And they're FDA-approved medications. They've gone through appropriate testing to show safety in human use. Another thing that might influence which vehicle is right for you that I forgot to mention is if you're allergic to anything in one vehicle. For example, if you are allergic to isopropyl myrostate, let's say, which is possible, then you're not going to want to use the cream. You might be prescribed the gel instead. But at the end of the day, the best one is the one that's going to be one that you can stick with. And a lot of that is going to just depend on how your skin reacts to a given formula, and that might be influenced by your relative oily versus dry skin type. And which one you actually like. All right, y'all, that's tretinoin cream versus tretinoin gel. Now, I get a lot of questions about the over-the-counter acne treatment retinoid adapalene for anti-aging. On the Insulate, I have a video talking all about it, so watch that one next if you are interested in that. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.